choose well. Don't make something crafty if it's your project. Crafty meaning something that you would see is common. Really go for it, express yourself. I don't recommend making molds in the kitchen. I certainly would only use molds in the kitchen. Find another area to do it safely. Hi, I'm Michael Joy. Welcome to another episode of The Ignorant Eye and the Overreaction videos. Today, Kay's presented some, looks like mold making videos, which is actually my wheelhouse. I've been a mold maker for over 35 years, so they've told me not to talk too much. But it's hard. I already see things to talk about here in this thumbnail. Okay, it's called How I Make Silicone Molds. Seriously creative. All right, so let's seriously see what's happening here. Okay. We need a logo like that, Kay.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Seriously Creative. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make silicone molds. So I'm not a professional mold maker, but this is just how I make them for my own personal use.
This is terrific because she took the time to say, I'm not a professional mold maker, it's just how she does it. When on the internet, there's so many people that are doing something for the first time and claiming to be a teacher. So I give her respect for that and just sharing the process here. There's a lot of people who just want to make molds, but they don't want to be a mold maker. Perfectly understandable. But as a mold maker, I kind of overstep my boundaries sometimes. So let's see what this very nice sounding lady does.
Hopefully you find the tutorial helpful, and I will also leave some links down below for some other videos. Okay, so what you're going to need is, of course, some silicone. So I use the Barnes Pinky Sil silicone, and it's got 6-minute work time and 20 minutes until it cures. So you have to work quite quickly with this one. Now you're going to need a hot glue gun, some packing tape or a clear sheet, and this is going to be the base for your mold. You're going to need something to make a border for your mold, so cookie cutters are really good for this.
This is pretty neat because the mold making style that she's choosing to do is clearly from whatever's around the house. And a lot of these people that are making molds are for making cake decoration. So they have a lot of culinary supplies in the house. The thing is if you use your culinary supplies for mold making, you really shouldn't use them for culinary again. I mean, the oils from the silicone, etc., etc. Also, there's food contact safe issues with the right materials being selected. She sounds Australian, so I'm not really familiar with that brand. A lot of times they're repackaged, but let's see.
Or you can use cardboard as well, so I'm just going to use this cardboard box.
Ooh, a lot of calories.
And also something that you want to mold. So I'm going to be making a mold out of crystals and a tray and a bowl.
This is interesting because sometimes if you're making a mold for the first time, you wouldn't know what's compatible. These crystals, some of them have a lot of silica in them, and they will bond with a certain type of silicone, which is known as tin cured. So you have to have some compatibility here, but looks like she's done this before.
It's a good idea to try and make molds out of items that have got like a flat surface. So these crystals all have got like a flat base, so that when I stick it down to mold, it's really secure. And also when you take it out of the mold, it's a lot easier because it has a nice flat base to like be pulled out from. If you want to save on wasting silicone, you can actually just keep the scraps from making other silicone molds. Just use the scraps to like fill in the gaps.
There's another way to recycle, but I like the frugality of this because silicone is expensive. However, recycling, if not done well, you can kind of blow the whole effort of the first mold making process. But it does laminate well to itself, so I like that she's teaching that right out of the bat. Hate to see this stuff go in the landfill.
And put in as much as you like, and then just pour the silicone straight over the top. And that will just help to fill any big gaps of silicone. So for my first example, I'm going to be using cardboard as the border of silicone. So I just cut the cardboard to the shape of the mold and then cover it in sticky tape so the silicone doesn't stick to the cardboard.
This is a pretty common DIY. A lot of people use poster board. We have special forms that we use in the shop, but she's moving right along. She's done this before. I'm happy to see it.
So make a base using cardboard and then cover that in sticky tape as well. Once you're happy with the border and the base, You can stick them together using a hot glue gun. Make sure that they're sealed properly, otherwise the silicone will leak out.
Nice little beat. It's so hard not to talk so much. You know, when knowing a lot about a particular process for any particular craftsperson, there's a desire to teach everything up front, and it overwhelms people. So just because it comes to my mind doesn't mean it's really worth sharing, because at the beginning, good enough is good enough. You know, just jump in, jumping back.
So for the second example, I'm going to be using a cookie cutter. You should try to make sure that you leave about 1 centimeter thickness around the edge of your piece.
I would just say, because it's expensive to do, you really want to choose something beautiful to mold. Clearly she's doing something to teach, maybe she has a project in mind, but these little dishes, whenever you can buy something already made, I mean, it's worth it. Unless you're transforming materials, unless you need something that was crystal, you need it to be able to make into fondant for your cake decoration. But choose well. Don't make something crafty if it's your project. Crafty meaning something that you would see is common. Really go for it, you know, express yourself.
That you're choosing to mold.
A lot of extra work she's doing.
So with the cookie cutter technique, I like to use packing tape on the bottom or sticky tape. Packing tape is just a little bit thicker and easier to use. And I just stick my cookie cutter on top of the packing tape and then stick the pieces inside on top of the tape. And then once again, just use the hot glue gun to seal the base and the border.
Another way is to just roll out a slab of clay. It'll be a little messier, but it's fast.
If you're using cardboard or a transparency sheet as the base for your mold, you'll need to use a hot glue gun to stick the piece down inside.
I would use clay. So she's very careful not to put fingerprints on this. So she's made a lot of molds because the silicone will pick up the fingerprints. And then every casting you have, if you're doing a shiny resin casting, it's gonna be security with your fingerprint. Oh, fingerprints.
Once the molds are ready, you can mix up the silicone. So mine's a 1-to-1 ratio and it has a short work time, so you have to work really.
Okay, just so you know, reaction videos are often supposed to be kind of funny and things like this, but with mold making, you're working with some serious chemistry here, and a lot of DIY people are doing the mold making in their house. And if let's say this lady has a couple small kids running around and she makes a mold in a part of the kitchen or something like that and then leaves it out, there's maybe one of the kid bumps it or the cats get into it or things like that. So you really have to have an area that you can sequester for mold making alone. I don't recommend making molds in the kitchen. I certainly would only use molds in the kitchen. Find another area to do it safely.
Really quickly, make sure you mix both of the parts together very thoroughly.
Certain silicones are by weight and others are by volume. She's measuring by volume, but you got to be sure to check the instructions because you could be off. The densities of part A and B are different.
You can then pour the silicone into the mold cavity.
Oh.
Using a thin stream will reduce the amount of bubbles that it produces. You can also tap the mold to release any extra bubbles as well. And
tapping the mold won't do anything, and I would use a different silicone that cures a little bit slower, because when you use a fast curing silicone, all the air bubbles go into the box, the mold box, and they don't have time to rise up. They just kind of freeze in there. She has what's called a short pot life. At the very beginning, it looked like it was only a few minutes, 6 minutes. She has to mix it and pour it, and within that 6 minutes, it has to have time to flow around the model, so she's got to go fast. That's what she's doing. But it is nice she's wearing gloves, too. Very important. And glasses.
I like to use a heat gun to try and pop some of the bubbles on the surface. I know professional mold makers use a pressure pot and this gets rid of every single bubble that comes out, but because I'm not a professional mold maker, it doesn't matter if I have a few bubbles on the surface.
I never used the heat gun before. We did it different. Ooh. I would have put a work board under there. It's good that she mixed up a lot of things to pour all at once. You know, that way you don't waste the material, so.
So once you've let the silicone cure, you can then take the mold out from its casing. So just peel off the hot glue from the bottom and take off the base, and then just pop the mold out.
Mold making is so boring unless you really want to make a mold of something. It's kind of like watching somebody sew pants. I mean, you got to really want the pants. The thing is with mold making is the idea is to make a mold that's very valuable. So if you take the time to make one mold, and as boring as can be, but everything that you get out of it is worth $20, you've made this little multiplier of your money. So all of a sudden, a boring thing becomes well worth it. Note to self, different music at this point. This is like, you know, don't you feel like you're being hypnotized to sleep? Kay's in the back there yawning.
No, I'm not. I'm watching it.
Get rid of the excess silicone around the piece.
It's hard not to talk. Well, it's instructional, so it would only be relevant for someone who wants to make a mold. Otherwise, it's just too much information. I gotta learn to simmer down. Oh, she did a nice job, sort of. We use curved tip Fisker scissors, they're a little better.
So I hope this tutorial was helpful. Please let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.
As a professional mold maker watching the DIY, I think she did a great job. There was no leaks or spills. She didn't make any excuses. She's done this before. I think it's terrific. My guess is she has a lot of other videos, and some of them are probably not as simple. But you got to start somewhere. I mean, just a lot of people don't even know where to buy the material or what material to buy, and they get stuck right there. So good job to this girl. I don't know her name, but I thought it was well made, other than the sleepy music in the end there. I always like to see the person that's making the mold too, not just the hands. Don't be shy. Hey, thank you for watching this mold making reaction video, which is kind of on the border of reaction and educational. But keep in tune with us because we're launching our own educational platform to show how to make professional videos from beginning to end, and we built 2 very nice sets upstairs, and I hope to save you thousands and thousands of dollars by teaching you how to do something correctly from the start. So stay tuned. It's called Handufacturing on Shapeshifters TV.